Hi, hi, good to see you. Nikki Duffy here. And emerging boldly is the theme of today's live. And we're all a bit wonky here. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm trying out a new and different setup. And it looks like my picture's all wonky. Maybe, well, how does it get any better than that? And sometimes life gets a bit wonky, and at the moment it's the 3rd of June 2020, and we are just emerging after starting to emerge after some very restricted lockdown times due to COVID-19. So who knows when you're going to be watching this, if you're watching this in the future. And like sometimes things do get a bit wonky, and so I suppose it's quite fitting that my new camera setup reflects that. How does it get any better? So, hi, and thanks for joining me. If you're joining live, I'm very grateful that you're here. And if you're watching in the future, I'm very grateful you're here as well. Put hashtag replay if you're watching in the future and you'd like to make any comments or have any questions, just put them in. I would love to address them. So the theme of today's show is all about emerging boldly. So whether you're, have been in this lockdown and are now the restrictions are being unfolded and less intense. Hi, Jenny. And you are starting to hi, Tanya. Starting to be in a situation where you can now emerge from the home that you've been, the restrictions and the lockdown and all of that, and open into, I'm so glad you're here too, Tanya. Very exciting. It's great to have you all here. Thank you for joining. Yeah, so what's it like for you? Do you feel concerned? Do you feel excited? Do you feel apprehensive over the okay, sorry, I'm just getting a message. I was just checking to see if the private message was telling me that there's no sound or something that's relevant to this. Okay, so let's just have I've got a different setup so I can see hopefully see comments and questions better without yeah. So what else is possible? Yes. So yeah, put in the comments if you're feeling apprehensive or excited, or just like actually nothing's really changed for you yet, or what, because as our countries, as the world comes out of lockdown, wherever you're watching from in the world, I'm in the UK, and there's an unfolding of the restrictions. So people are tentatively starting to go out a little by little by little. We're allowed to meet in groups of 6 now, I think, or I don't follow the restrictions too much. Apprehensive, says Tanya. Yes. Because one of the bizarre things about me and my situation is that when I'm at home, I'm mostly indoors and don't really go out an awful lot. So it's when I'm traveling or when I'm putting on live classes that the lockdowns really impacted me. But generally on a day-to-day thing, me personally, hasn't really changed an awful lot. And my hubby John, he's a what's it called, like first line worker, he's one of the vital workers. So his day-to-day routine hasn't worked. He still hasn't changed a lot. He's still going to work and he's still doing what he normally does. And although there have been alterations at his work, his day-to-day hasn't enormously changed. whereas for other clients and as for other friends and families, they've been in total lockdown. People, I've got friends and family who work for the theatre, and theatres are in complete lockdown, and who knows when they'll be opening again. And people who work in offices that are just tentatively looking at, restarting work. They've been on the UK furlough, and now do they physically go into work and brave the tubes in London, or do they work from home? And then there's people as well whose jobs have just like disappeared. They're no longer no longer have a job to go back to, or no longer have work to go back to. So how have things changed for you? So Tanya was saying she's feeling apprehensive, and I think there's an awful lot of apprehension. Yes, and Jenny's saying very mixed. I'll just read it down here in case you see where. Very mixed. I'm at home still, supposedly until 23rd of June, and then I'm in a lovely country situation, but missing the energy and movement of others. And yeah, I get that. I hear that. I miss the interaction and the energy of just being around other people that you're choosing to be around, and the whole thing of like access bars, being able to touch other people's bodies. I know Jenny's a bars facilitator as well, and being able to gift and receive body processes, including access bars, which require physical close proximity and require touch, which with the lockdown has been prohibited. So Tanya's saying, my husband refused to measure up so he could work from home. Hooray! Oh, great. And I love the energy of that, you looking at the instead of the restrictions, what else is possible, and the joyfulness of like what doesn't have to be. And that is one that leads us very nicely into my first of 3 tips that I wanted to share with you, of looking at what you can control. So we can control how we respond to things, and sometimes that's easier than other times. Sometimes it's more of a reaction, an instant reaction, rather than a response, a measured and a measured response. So looking at what we can control. So we can't control, whether the restaurants are going to open again or not, and when, and we can't control we can't control the weather. We can't control, there's so many things outside of our control. And Tanya's saying, I've been running the bow. So I'm assuming that the comment went in before the typing had finished. Yeah. So and sometimes it can feel like we don't control anything, and everything's outside of our control, and that can be very alarming and worrying, and it can create a lot of anxiety. But when we look at what we can control, so even when there's loads of things outside of our control, there's still loads of things that we can control. And Tanya's saying, yeah, body process on myself and my husband when he lets me. Yes, fabulous. And yeah, so that's a great example of what we can control. We can, if you know body processes, if you have tools that you can use on your body and on yourself. So the tools are things like the Access Consciousness body processes, and I too have been doing daily body processes, and they have been a huge contribution to me and my body. And you can do if with other people within your household if they're willing, or I've also been doing it with people on Zoom. So we commit to the time spent together, and on Zoom she'll be running body processes on her, and I'll be running body processes on my body, and yet there's an engagement and an added dimension when we are engaging and doing it together at the same time. So these are within our choice, within our control. So I drew a little diagram because I like using paper, and I like yes, I'm doing body processes on myself, Jenny. Yeah, so for instance, well, a very simple one, if any of you have done a bars class, then there are very simple body processes that you can just ask to run on yourself. So you've got the thymus exercise, which is one you can go back to your bars exercise bars manual and just ask the thymus exercise to run. That's a body process, and that's a very energizing body process, and it's a great one for boosting your immune system as well and re-energizing your body. And one that I've been doing, which is in the foundation manual, and what's it called? Alert for self-promotion alert. I am doing a online foundation class on the 12th of June. If you've been considering playing with the idea of doing an online foundation class, then it is a fabulous class, and we teach you there's 4 body processes in the foundation class, and we go through how to run them on yourself. And it's a fabulous gift, and we all run them together in the way I just described that I do on Zoom with my friend. So yeah, so going back to the things that you can control. So sorry, there's messages. Tanya saying, I've always swapped acoustical body with my friend in Austria. Ah, interesting. Yeah. So, you know, the body processes are energetic, and yeah, what else how else can we use these energies to our advantage? So Tanya's saying, I did an access body class just before the lockdown. Oh, very cool, very cool. Hi Shruti, thanks for watching, thanks for joining, and feel free to comment and put any questions or comments in the comments. So yeah, what you can control. So this is my little oh, the acoustical one is brand new, is it, Tanya? How cool is that? So yeah, so this is my circle of what you can control. So the central circle, this is just the way I like to do it. You can do it in a list, or you can, I find when you physically do something, then it engages more. So you energetically engage, you mentally engage, and you physically engage as well. So writing lists and using physical paper or typing it up on your computer is another way. Yeah, to list out all the things that you do control when you're feeling like apprehensive, anxious, that you have no control, that the government's in control, or that, you know, everything's out of your control and it's all like making you feel anxious and apprehensive. This is tip number 1. Look at what you do control. So, and I like to do it in this manner. Draw a lovely circle, and in the center of the circle, what you do control. So what you control is your choices and your thoughts, your feelings, and how you respond to things. These are all things you control. So this is one that here's one I made earlier for those of you who were brought up in the UK and watched Blue Peter. Here's one I made earlier. So I've listed out all the things that I do control. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, my actions, what I do, your facial expressions, you know, whether I choose to smile or not, or whatever facial expressions, you know, all the things that I control, I list them out and write them out in the center of the circle. And then not only do we have control, but we also have situations and things that we influence. So so list out those as well. And again, here's, oh, I've knocked it now. Here's one I made earlier with the things that I influence in the second circle. So they're things like I can influence my friends. So for instance, if I say, oh, I just watched a fabulous film, it's really funny, it's the kind of humor that you like, go and watch it. That's a way of influencing. So you can influence your body by the things that you choose. So some of them, they combine the two, the circle of what I control and what I influence. So I control what I eat, which can influence my body. So Jenny's saying, going to put body notices up in my face around the house. I love this diagram. A winner, as it will feed throughout the day. How does it get any better? Yes, thank you, Jenny. Fabulous. Yes. So other influences are things you can influence is your health, where you live, your environment. So whether you choose to, and then that's also within your control. So I'm choosing to have plants in my environment, and a crooked picture at the moment as well. And also, you know, you can choose like how clean you have your environment, what, you know, how tidy you have it. That's all within your control. And if you share your environment with other people, then perhaps the shared spaces are more like more in what you influence. And then outside of what you control and what you influence is what you neither control, outside of your influence and outside of your control. So outside here are list things like the weather. You don't control the weather and you can't influence the weather. Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining us. This is my tip number one. What you control, what you influence, and what is outside of your control and influence. And just by listing them out, I find it very empowering exercise. Tanya saying, I'm OCD and I am happy, and so is my husband. Cool. And I wonder if that's referring to the cleaning and influencing your environment. I'm glad you love the diagram. I love it too. Yes. And this will be a part, I go more in depth into it in the 5-day challenge that's coming up. So looking forward to that. So yeah, and so things outside of your control and influence, and these are things, it's like, just let them go, you know, to focus on what you do control and what you do influence. Because when we focus on things that are outside cool. And when we focus on things that are outside of our control and outside of our influence and get upset about them, so stuff like getting upset about the weather, you know, oh, it's raining today here in the UK or in the part that I am, and getting upset, it's like, oh no, it's raining, and you know, that means, and getting all upset. If I were to get myself all worked up and upset about it, it's not going to change the rain, it's not going to change the weather, but it is going to impact on my day and make me miserable. And so that's something that it's an exercise in how to be miserable. And if that's fun for you, then go for it. And if it's not fun for you, then just acknowledge what's outside of your influence and outside of your control, and just let it go. You know, allow it to be in your awareness, but don't allow it to impact on your joyfulness. And if it is something that you feel very passionately about, something that's outside of your influence and outside of your control, then maybe, and it is, you do feel like it's impacting on you, then maybe you could ask questions about, so for access consciousness questions, which are great for stuff like that, is, what is this? What can I do with it? Can I change it? And if so, how can I change it? So there you are, starting to blur the lines. See, some of these go have arrows in your influence and outside of your influence and control. So you start to uh, uh, blur the lines between, start to create it to be within your influence, within your control. So that's just a fun exercise that I like to do. And then because so often the stuff that we feel is outside of our control can be if we feel we have that everything is outside of our control, then it can be a very anxious place to be. But when we acknowledge the control that we do have, and when we acknowledge the what we do control and what we the power that we do have, it can be a very empowering place to be. And from that empowered space, we can then choose to expand, and we can choose more and choose more, rather than from feeling like everything's outside of our control and influence. Then it feels like we are contracting and getting smaller and smaller. So it's a way of expanding your joyfulness and what is fun for you. So that's tip number 1 in my 3 tips for how did I put it? I can't remember how I put it, but it was very exciting. So tip number 2 is to let go of what you can't control. So be an interesting point of view. So that there's several tools that you can use in as a way of letting go of what you can't control, and stopping it from upsetting you. So one of the ways is to recognize that it's currently outside of your control, and you could choose to find a way to influence it. So like the example with the weather that I first said, that the weather is outside of our control, and yet you can choose how you respond to it. So as I said, it's raining outside today, so I could choose, instead of allowing the fact that it's raining, choosing the fact that it's raining, making that make me miserable and get me all anxious and upset. Acknowledge the fact that it's raining, acknowledge that I can't change the fact that it's raining right now, and yet I can change how I respond to the rain. So I could choose to not go out at all if I don't want to get wet. I could choose to wear weather appropriate clothing so that the clothing protects me. I could choose to take an umbrella. I could make loads of different choices. So that the fact that the way the weather is something I can't control, that it doesn't have to impact me negatively. It doesn't have to upset me and ruin my day. I can make choices within my control of how I respond to that. So that's part of tip number 2. Let go of what you can't control. Let go of the angst and of the emotions around what you can't control. If you feel very strongly about something that you feel you can't control, then look into, okay, so what could I do about this? What choice could I make today that could impact on this thing that's outside of my control? What can I be or do today to change this right away? Keep asking questions. Asking questions from using what is within your control to expand your your experience of what you've put in the outer circle there. So and access consciousness have got some great clearings also. So it's often what we make significant about things is what upsets us the most. It's the significance that we put onto it. It's the projections and expectations we put onto it. So if the government's decisions are outside of our control, and that's what's upsetting us, and we think, how could they, the government are doing this. When we come from a place of like, the government are doing this to me, then that's a place of victimhood. Whereas if we come from a place of, okay, so the government have decided that, what can I be or choose today so that it doesn't upset me, or so that I can contribute to something different? What else did I want to say about that? Yeah, and so whatever we've decided the significance of that is, that's what upsets us. So one of the clearings that I've been doing intensely every single day, 30 times a day, has been what energy, what space, what consciousness, what choice can me and my body be to be out of control. So that's out of the control judgments, the other people controlling me, and the control of judgments are designed to keep you small and keep you controlled. So when I talk about being out of control, it's out of the judgments that control me. That's where we're coming from with that, because I've been talking a lot about about control. So out of control, out of definition. So it's everything we've defined that to mean. Everything we've defined the government's thing that's upsetting us to mean, out of limitation, out of form, out of structure, out of significance. Everything we've made significant about that. Out of linearity and concentricities. So concentricities are small little circles getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's all about confinement and containment. So that's a massive clearing. So I've been doing that every single day. And then you finish it off with the access consciousness clearing statement, which is right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. And if you'd like to find out more about that, you go to theclearingstatements.com. So the full clearing again, faster, is what energy, space, consciousness and choice can me and my body be to be out of control, out of definition, out of limitation, out of form, structure and significance, out of linearities and concentricities. So the concentricities are keeping the circles smaller and smaller and smaller. Out of all that is about expanding your circles, expanding your space. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. So that's a way of letting go of what you can't control and not making it significant, and letting go of the frustration and angst and all the yucky stuff about what you can't control. And letting it go with ease, being more of the space of you. So that leads us into tip number 3. And that's all about expanding your awareness. What more could you be aware of? And Tanya's saying, thank you. Wow. Thank you, Tanya. So tip number 3 is all about expanding your awareness, expanding what you do control and what you have influence over. whether that, because even though I went through this whole exercise of like what we control, what we influence, and what's outside of our influence and control, energetically we have influence and empowerment beyond even this reality, beyond what's visible, what thought has taken us to so far. And Jenny saying, another one for the wall board. Fabulous. Yeah, so when you expand yourself energetically and allow yourself space of expansion, regardless of your physical locality, your physical restrictions, and, you know, the physicalities of things, allow yourself to expand energetically, then your influence and your awareness of what is possible is so much more and so much more. And from that expanded space of awareness, of influence, of empowerment, then you have a different perspective and you can make choices from that empowered space. Choices that, again, expand what's possible for you and give you more inner strength, more power. And from that expanded space, you have more surety about, because you have awareness of what's going on. You have awareness of what's going on beneath the surface. So you know, because a lot of the times, you know, the things that we've had outside of our influence and control, sometimes what's outside of our influence and control, the decisions that other people make, can bring us to anger, can bring us to frustration. And often it's that anger and frustration is it's like a monitor to let you know that there's something wonky, like I said at the beginning with my wonky picture and the wonky the wonky setup of this camera. You know, when there's something wonky going on there, when you expand out, you allow yourself the awareness of what is underneath the decisions that other people are making, the stuff that's going on outside of our control, that's giving you that anger, that frustration, that wonkiness. When you're from your expanded awareness, you get a sense of what's underneath that's creating that wonkiness. And it's not about making it right, and it's not about making it wrong, or making yourself right for knowing that they're doing it wrong, or that there's a lie in there. Because one of the things about anger and frustration is it can be triggered when there is a lie, spoken or unspoken. So when we come from this expanded space of awareness and we become aware that I got that wonkiness, that anger, that frustration, that angst, whatever it was, because I was aware of a lie there, spoken or unspoken. And just that awareness, it gives you space, it gives you possibilities, it gives you expanded choice. And it's not about making the lie wrong or anything like that, or you right for spotting the lie, or no right and wrong. Just being in awareness empowers you to choose what works for you, to choose from a space of awareness, rather than like letting that wonkiness impact you and make you apprehensive and make you worry you, or all of the stuff that's been going on. And from that expanded space, that expansion, you are less likely to be, when you are in a space of expansion, other people's worries, fears, thoughts, feelings and emotions are less likely to infiltrate you and impact you in such an intense way. Expanding out is a great way to let go of other people's angst, worry and other fears and emotions that sometimes we take on, so often we take on board and think they're ours. So that's one of the beauties of expanding out as well. And of course, asking who does it belong to can be a great way to return other people's thoughts, feelings, emotions back to them. And that can be, so expansion, I find, is a great quick way to expand out and give yourself space regardless of what's going on around you. So those are my 3 tips for emerging boldly into a familiar yet unknown terrain. So you know, the things have changed after lockdown, and so many things are the same. So when you have this empowered space of being within you, then you can step forward boldly as you are strong in yourself, regardless of what's going on around you. So what's Tanya saying? When I'm aware of other people lying to me, like I am in a course and the team leader lied straight away, I do not trust her. Yeah, and that's valuable information. When you're aware that a person has lied to you, that is useful information to you. And what you do with the information is then up to you. So when you are able to not make them wrong and not make yourself wrong and not go into any significance about the fact that they lied, just be interesting point of view. Ah, they lied to me. That's the wonky energy I was aware of. Okay, what else can I be aware of now? And Jenny's saying, these are such freeing tools, Niki. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Jenny. And yeah, and Tanya's saying, I ain't going to run and hide. Cool. Good for you. Good for you. Yes. So, so when you have this empowered feeling, this inner strength, then, and the expanded awareness of you and being of you, then there is no need to hide. And you can be bold with and as all that you do, regardless of the wonky stuff that other people are doing around you. You can be strong in you. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope it's been as much fun for you as it has for me. And if you have any questions about this, if you're watching the replay, then put your questions and comments in #replay, and I look forward to reading them and seeing you again next week. Oh, and I'm doing a regular thing now, SOP Sunday. So if you'd like to join me for yeah, that's cool, Jenny. Yes, Jenny's saying, love that no hiding, so light. Yes. So Sundays now at 12 p.m. UK time, I'm doing a 30-minute group taster SOP session. So if that's something that would be fun for you, then I'll put a link in the comments to that as well. And yeah, foundation with me starts online Friday the 12th. I think that's 9 days from now. Yeah, so I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for joining me. Bye.